Hello, hello. Papa Dog and I are making a video. Yes. A blissed out video. Yes, a paint video. And we want to share our thoughts on empowerment, being blissed out, love, infinite caring, kindness, compassion for all living beings. Yes, healing and art. So, and outside it's still a little bit light. It's getting darker outside. But I take this as an opportunity to make a paint video for you. So, and I still have my two sculptures here. I gotta get up first of all from this cushion. And it's always difficult because I'm heavy. So, okay. Here is my camera stand. The camera stand. And my two figures there. And I'm gonna put more stuff on them right now. That's what I'm gonna do. Alright. I'm gonna put more stuff from this here. Using up the rest of this. I am putting the camera stand on the other side. That's what I'm gonna do. That is more practical. I'm gonna put this up in here. And then this is better so it doesn't fall out. And I'm gonna put this one over here. Yay! There. Use a little bit more of the daylight. It has better light. This was already glued to the camera stand. I'm doing the other side now of this, so then I can put this side down without it sticking. That's good. Paul is making oatmeal cookies, and he's going to be using the German wheat paper for baking, and the wheat paper will glue itself onto the cookie, and the cookie will melt itself onto the wheat paper, and it tastes really awesome. My mother always cooked like this, baked like this, and Barbara always baked like this, and they made amazingly delicious cookies. I miss their cookies so much, but that makes me want to try to replicate those cookies. That's why I bought the wheat paper, German wheat paper. Those are like I think they come in different sizes. The ones I got are like this. I thought they were bigger. They kind of tricked me. So, you know, I couldn't tell by the weight. So they're about like 2 inches in diameter. They're like plates, like round wheat plates. They're thin, like, you know, a millimeter thick or something. And you put those into the oven pan. I prefer to grease the pan first, just in case. I don't know, you might not need to have to grease it, but I put a little bit olive oil in it, and I make sure to massage that into the pan. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of grease, just a light grease film inside, and then you put the wheat paper in, you know, you line them up one next to another so you fill the entire pan up. Then you make a nice delicious cookie dough, which should be a little bit more viscous, a little bit more squishy, not firm, not completely firm like cookie dough, but more squishy. And you just make little balls out of it, about a handful, you know, and then you lay that ball on top of that wheat paper. And then you bake that, and it will melt into the wheat paper and make a delicious, delicious cookie. I like the way it tastes. I like the way it feels in the mouth when it has that wheat paper on the bottom. This is having a real nice surface area. It's so wonderful. It's a real nice structure. I'm planning on making cookies in this shape and size. Actually, they're gonna be raw. They're not gonna be baked. Maybe some of them I will bake. It will sort of be like a fruit bread or something, banana bread. But I want to make those as they make them in Germany. They have all these wonderful, amazing, gorgeous pastries in Germany, and I miss the food so much. So I have no other choice other than to make that myself. Also, the main reason for making it myself is because I want to avoid white sugar and I want to avoid chocolate. And I want to avoid the marzipan paste, you know, which is delicious, but I love marzipan, but it is not a whole food. It is an almond paste, a white almond paste that had the outer shell removed from the almonds. And it's the outer shell, as in all fruits and foods or plants. It's the outer shell that contains all the nutrients and the fiber and the whole sugar and all of that. You want to eat whole sugar, the way it comes in the plant itself. Not refined, not modified, not altered, not chemically changed or molecules fused or whatever, the way it's not supposed to be. Yeah, but the way it comes from nature, that's how we want it. This here, this thing here is not the perfect example for what I'm talking about. But hey, we don't eat this. This is art. And it is artificial. And one day it will become an artificial intelligence. Very nice. It's a little bit left of my strawberry colored paint. And I'm going to cover both sculptures with it. So I covered basically all cracks that it had from the Sculpey. No, from the Play-Doh. Sculpey is a different material. Sculpey or Fimo, those are the ones that you bake in the oven and then it hardens and it does not crack. I prefer not to buy those anymore. I prefer to buy things that harden on the air. That is better. I used to make Sculpey necklace pendants, also art figures that I hung around my neck. They were quite large actually. My parents still have those in their art collection that my dad has of my art. That was from a different era in my life. Those are good too, but the shape has shifted since then. They were ghost figures. One time I wore them in a store, I had this necklace, and a lady came up to me and said, "Hey, I like your artwork, but it doesn't have a gender. Your artwork doesn't have a gender. It's not male or female," because it didn't, they were ghostly beings. The hands flared out into points and the feet too, and it didn't have a gender. They didn't have breasts or genitals. So they were basically like doll figures. Kind of cute. But the shape has shifted since then. I make them differently now. Now they have platform shoes, and they have 5 fingers, and they have eyes like these here. They're always sticking out to the side, the eyes, like this. Squarish, rectangular, cubic. That is my artwork. To me, this is the shape of perfection. I don't know if they will stay like this or they will eventually evolve into something else. I don't know, but this is where they are at right now. So, in their art development, in their artistic evolution. Okay, so I'll put this up here. Very awesome. And this one has almost no cracks left. I use the rest of the paint. Very nice. I love it. Gosh, I love this color. Comes out nice in the daylight. And yesterday I found 3 pink moonstones at the beach. I made a video about that on my other channel. Kenny Redwood support group. And I think it's okay, the whole name is Animal Lovers Support Group Kenny Redwood. That's a very long channel name. Yeah, that is my other channel. Kenny was my former dog. I'm always laughing about my own thoughts. You know, as long as they're not violent, as long as they're not intrusive. I have intrusive thoughts because of all the terrible cases I have seen. So they force themselves into my brain, and then I see all these horrible graphic images, all that violence in the world torments my brain. But when I do art, I tune into something else, you know. It's not only uplifting, it puts me into a different realm. So when I do art, these horror force thoughts, they don't come in. That's very good. Oh, and I want to tell you all that the videos by Caroline, she is a redhead, I mentioned her before. Her videos are extremely calming to my brain, and I know that they are calming to many other people's brains as well. She already has a whole following, millions of subscribers and viewers, about 1 million views on each video, and for good reason. She's helping people to sleep. I mean, those are the best relaxing videos I have ever seen on the internet. They are so relaxing, and the reason why they're so relaxing are because there's an energy there's a godlike energy in this woman. That's why I say she's a god level soul. She's there for us. She's really there for us. She's very young and so advanced, such a parent already for the entire human species. You know, the humans, they suffer the most under torment. Some animals do too, because of humans. So that's why humans need to be healed. Their brains need to be rescued. And Caroline is doing that much more than Jesus Christ could have ever done it during his lifetime or his other lifetime. Particularly not Jesus Christ as an idea, as the Jesus idea. That's not helping anyone. That's just making things more neurotic and more dangerous, more bellicose, more confrontational. And that's what we don't want. We want to move away from all of this, from this inner torment and the confrontation and this dualism and this my religion or my God over everything. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to dissolve, recycle, shoot into the sun. And don't make the mistakes of worshiping someone else then again, or the Buddha and Jesus, they didn't want to be worshipped. They had a message for us. Messages: introspect, love yourself, love all living beings. Don't kill, and that means don't hunt, don't eat meat. That was the message. Then it will conveniently be molded into something else, made into ideas, made into laws that serve an agenda, and so on, bypassing the message. And they are, the Buddha is the infinite. Jesus is a soul, an indigo soul. That's not the highest level yet. Meaning very well, I believe even Muhammad was probably a light worker soul, wanting to make things better. He saw that people were calloused and ruthless, and so he meditated a lot. He wanted to improve himself. Then he had a vision, and then he made a mistake by thinking this vision that he had of the infinite. Then he made that into something else. He made that into a religion, and then made that into something that he thought would help people, right? And then I think during his lifetime, the way he taught it was he taught peace. Don't kill. Also, we need to meditate a lot. We need to come to our senses. And then after his death, you know what they do with their gurus. That happens with all gurus, with all teachers. Their message gets distorted, gets molded. If they're a psychopath, they will make their message into something unbearably horrible that has nothing to do anymore with the original message, with the person who had the message. And yeah, then a religion comes out of it, and religion is not good. It's not good for you. Worshipping anyone is not good for you. You can use a person as like Big Brother telling you something, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, basically, And you can listen, and you can say, oh, hey, thanks for that good advice, But not make a religion out of it, and not elevate your Big Brother onto pedestals. That's not what any of these people, or what, that's not what Buddha wanted, that's not what Jesus wanted, that's not what Muhammad wanted. So, or any of these, or Moses, or whatever, their names are people that have existed at some point and were teachers or rabbis or whatever. Most of them not fully advanced yet. And that brings me to what I wanted to talk about, really. Okay, I'm going to put this down here so it can rest and it can harden, and then I can get these things started with the actual colors that I want to put on. Okay, now I'm going to put this over here. Alrighty. So, very awesome. I guess I'm going to use the rest of this paint to fill in some of the other ones that I have out there on the table. Also, I'm going to do that and put some on this here. Put some on this. That's how thick it is. getting dark outside now. The sky is becoming purplish blue. See, religion is so incredibly dangerous for people's minds because it becomes propaganda. Religion is propaganda. When you see an inquisition where people, inquisition is really conspiracy. That was the conspiracy theory in 1600 during Queen Mary and Bloody Mary and stuff like this in England, where they really had to learn the hard way, man. They really did. Where, they were just so incredibly fearful, and because they were growing up as children in this environment of fear mongering, and talking about witches. Even my brother and I mentioned that in another video, we grew up with those fairy tales about witches and stuff like this, the later fairy tales, they had the edge taken off then about it, and they had titles like My Little Witch and Walpurgisnacht and The Nice Witch Gathering, or The Witches Meeting for Tea, or it didn't have this monstrous fear mongering in it anymore. But in 1600, 1500, those people were terrified of witches, and there are still religions to this day who are spreading this misinformation about witches and telling people to be afraid of them and those kind of things. There's still archaic enclaves out there, Christian religions and denominations and Baptists and whatever, they're born again, those types, and they still teach these kind of things, tell people, anti-teach, I can't even use the word teach, anti-inform people on this, fear-monger people. And it's based on misconceptions, misunderstandings, and it's very dangerous to tell children, to make children afraid of witches and all of this. So even the word witch, I don't even use it unless I talk about it. When I talk about it, I have to use the words so that people know what I'm talking about, of course. But what is a witch? A witch was usually an older woman who has insatiable hunger for knowledge. And for a woman to get educated 300-400 years ago was dangerous, actually, for her to do that, because society was dominated by men only, just like we have it today with Islam. That's why I don't understand why the feminists aren't completely standing up against Islam. And the reason why they are not, because they're running on that liberal train. I don't want anyone running on any political bias. That's what the problem is. All these biases, it's like either this or that. It can't be something out of the box. No, it has to be by the book, by the liberal book, or by the conservative book, or whatever. by this religion, by that religion. They don't want to think out of the box. You need to think out of authority, outside of authority. This here is outside of authority, what I'm doing here right now. This is art dictating to me alone. Art is the infinite cosmos. This is love. Okay. This is an affinity to form and shape. This is friendship. This is not authority. So a witch was a woman who thought for herself in a very dangerous time where thinking for oneself was actually really against the law. You know, that's how deep in the Stone Ages people have been. That's also how much we have already evolved out of it as, you know, the wider society. Not talking about the enclaves. There's some dangerous religious enclaves out there. Stay away from that, man. Stay away from that, girls and boys and men and women. Stay away from those enclaves. Stay away from Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and any of these Baptists and born agains and evangelicals, or also Catholic. It's all about oppression. It's not about mental freedom. They don't want you to do artwork. They want you to worship your minister so that he can have power. They want you to cater, give money, give attention, give worshiping to this one ego or several egos, that worship each other, or that wash each other's hands in the ladder of hierarchy. You know, that's what we want to get away from. Get away from that. Think for yourselves. You don't need someone to tell you how to live your life in order to have some kind of orientation on where you're standing and what you're doing. No, go by love. Love, be a good person. You don't need a religion for that, to be a good person, right? So the Inquisition era, that was really, that I would say those were the darkest ages in humanity ever, where one person would snitch, in quotation marks, on another person and tell the judges that's a witch or a sorcerer or whatever. And then they would take that person, and I don't want to say I'm not going to get into it. You read it for yourself what they did with those people. You research that for yourself. You really look at it. Look at it. That's where all of these religions are coming out of this. We want to dissolve it. Dissolve the religions. Because I tell you what, the religions, they can make these things happen again and again and again in history, and we want to avoid it. Could also be an atheist dictator. It could be any kind of person. Any kind of person could become a dictator and then dictate terrible things to people, as in Kim Jong-un, or like what's this one? Ted Nugent, or what's that minister that is homosexual but doesn't want to come out of the closet, the one in New York. It's like people want to be dictators. You don't need a dictator. You don't need a minister. A minister wants to be dictator. All ministers want to be dictators. They won't admit it to you. No, not me. I don't want to be dictator. I'm such a good minister. So good. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to put themselves again and again and again on a pedestal. So they not only tortured witches, men and women, mainly women, like I heard it was about like 85 or 90% women, but they also did exorcisms. And you've probably seen the film The Exorcist. I have watched that film, and the whole subject, exorcism, is already wrong. It's already flawed, but the film is really, really frightening. But I really love the actress lady who played the monster. She was only 13 when she played that. She turned out to be a real amazing woman. I think her name's Linda, and she is an animal rights activist. She's a real caring person, real kind, good person, not a monster, the opposite of that, not a devil. Amazing woman. So what I want people to know is that, and also in that film, there was a bad minister, a bad pastor, and a good pastor. And the good pastor, that was very well observed by the film writer and by the director. There was one good thing I have to give them, is that the good pastor actually really loved that girl, and he loved the girl no matter what, even with the possession going on, with the schizophrenia or whatever you want to interpret this as. You could say, yes, this is psychopathology, if you want to, if something like this ever occurred, and I think it has occurred, not in a way of walking down the stairs backwards or anything, or twisting the head like but people have gone really insane. There's a lot of insane people that just they can't stand the pressure of society. It's just, it's too much. They go insane. So, but in this film, what happened is, if you paid attention in the very beginning, the dad leaves the mother, okay, before she goes insane. And she stands there on the top of the stairs, and she overhears a conversation where her dad says to her mother, "I'm leaving. Sorry, but I have to go. I'm not coming back." And that information was more than she could handle at the age also of the character, was also teenage girl, 13 or something. And that was more than she could handle, this type of situation with the divorce and, dad leaving her behind, never coming back to her. So that was very hard. And that's when these things started. She started to pee in her sleep, started to pee in front of other people, and had a cold look on her face. And then she went into her bed, and that's when she became completely insane. So I don't recommend to anyone this film. It's just, it's a movie, it is a horror film, and it just does nothing but cause terror and rub this in even more, these lies about monster and evil and devil and so on. It's just it's a, it's a human fabrication. That's what it really is. It's blame shifting, basically. It's saying, oh, you are good, but you're just being possessed. You are good, but all of the bad things you have done, it's just because you're possessed. No, that is blame shifting, and that is not taking any responsibility for one's actions. Okay, so this is very important. I cannot stress this often enough. That's why I talk about this so often in my videos, because I'm going to put this tablet over here so I can paint on the other painting now. Because you see this again and again in society, in movies. You see it all over the place, where the blame is always shifted away from an individual, and they'll come up with all kinds of things on why they have to, on why it's not the person's fault or whatever. Or people will say it's not the religion's fault. Really, seriously? Yes, think again. When a religion sanctions bad behavior, it's not the religion's fault. Hello. So, we need to start taking responsibility for things, And yes, the little girl, or, as this is just an example, this story in the film, this is a very common thing that happens in society, where a little girl will probably go insane or will have tremendous problems. We all had most people have some serious trouble when they're teenagers, because they're new to the world. They don't understand the world. When traumatic things happen, it can throw us completely over the edge. It can make us crazy. That doesn't mean they become a demon, or that doesn't mean they're possessed by a demon or something. That's a religious idea, this thing. People can become schizophrenic, all kinds of things can, the nervous system can't handle it. That's why it's so important that we each of us heal ourselves, so that we don't make the new generations crazy with those kind of things. It's so important. But to say that, if someone does something terrible, let's say someone hurts someone, and then to say, hey, let me exorcise the demon out of that person, you are really good, but you're just being possessed. That's not taking responsibility for one's action. That is not helping people to take responsibility for their actions. That's just making people deluded and more crazy and more uninformed, and causes more mental illness and more schizophrenia and more crazy ideas about how the world works, and will never help the person take any responsibility for any of their actions in the future. So no, it makes things worse. An exorcism performed on a person makes that person even more unstable and more crazy and even less responsible for their actions. Yes, one can be made crazy, but when we hurt someone else or we hurt ourselves, we still have to take the responsibility for it, because we are still doing it. So, I'm not condemning a person, who cuts her arms. I'm saying this is, you can't cope with, this is more than you can take. But you still did that to yourself, okay? Own up to it still, and let's see how we can all heal not away, but we can all heal through this. We go through this together, all of us. No one stands above the other. big brother, big sister who has been through this can say, let me show you how I did it. You know, maybe you can do it too. We have to take responsibility for our actions. You have binged, you have done bulimia, you take responsibility for it. Don't blame that on some kind of devil or something. No. The stream of sorrow is there. Yes, it is there energetically. We're part of it. Our egos are part of it. When we're perceptive, we can sense that more than if we're not perceptive. We sense more of that from other people as well. But they're not different from us. That's what Jiddu Krishnamurti is pointing out. It is not different. It comes in different shapes and colors and textures and contexts and whatever. But it's still the same thing. The same suffering. It's the same need for approval. It's the same craving, wanting attention. All of that's that what people think is demonic energy, but it's really the ego, and it's a stream of egos that's in the infinite cosmos that is just swishing around and swirling around. You know, swirl into people's brains and back out. You know, as the Buddhists always say, you sit in meditation, and when things come, either out of your own mind or from other people's energies, or when usually these things are because they're the same suffering, you know, they communicate with one another. They say, hey, yeah, I'm the same as this here. But instead of being afraid and running away, we need to face it, not run away from it. We need to say, hey, I know you. I know you're suffering. So the one good pastor, he didn't condemn the girl, but instead he saw her pain, he saw her suffering. And he gave his life to save her. And he took on that entity, whatever, you know what you want to call it. He took that on, and he threw himself out of the window in the end. But that's religion. That's a religious idea. That's human-made ideas. You know, that's not the actual. Yeah, this didn't even show. I have to put this over here. Let's see. Okay. Humans have always interpreted very crazy things into stuff because they didn't understand it. They thought lightning was caused by gods, demons, and stuff like this. And now we know what lightning is. It's a form of electricity. You know, the elements are coming together. Hot and cold causes electrical friction in the atmosphere. There's nothing scary, okay? There's nothing scary in someone having a hard time and someone crying. You know, there were people that were afraid of me because I cried, even. You know, it goes that far. But if someone loses their mind, that can be very scary sometimes. But it's not scary. It's not something to run away from, and quite the opposite. You want to go there. You want to put your hand on that person and see what's going on. I see you're having a hard time. Let me give you some comfort. And I have done that because I care. And people will start crying because they have never cried before. When someone that can't even allow themselves to cry, where does this energy go to? Where does that pent up energy of torment and fear and loneliness, where does it go to? It goes into the most crazy fears and thoughts and associations, stuff like that. Dissociations, personality developments that are not real, all kinds of things. Religion, religiousness. Religion is craziness. Someone who's religious is not a well person. You're not well if you're seeking a religion. And then when you have that religion, it makes you even more unwell, and more unempowered. But you cling to it anyway. Cling to it because you don't know where else to go. You don't know what else. Society doesn't offer anything. They don't offer alternatives that worked out for anyone. It's very frightening to stand on your own. But we have no other choice other than to stand on our own. One time a woman actually had the nerve to ask me on YouTube if I had a following. And it sounded like in parentheses, if you have a following, then I can give you some credit, then I can believe you, maybe I'll follow you. But if you don't have a following, why should I believe you? You don't have a following. So you're just full of shit. If you don't have a following, you must be full of shit. So I said to her, I don't have a following. And I don't want a following, and I don't want to follow anyone. Because we need to stand on our own 2 feet. I said to her, you too, you need to stand on your own 2 feet. And she just dismissed me then because I don't have a following. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't help her. If she thinks that you have to have a following in order to, and then even if she did listen to me, if I had a following, she wouldn't really listen. Because you don't listen to someone, you don't see what it really is if you are following someone. If you say, I agree or I disagree, you are not listening. You're not really listening. Real listening is being hungry for knowledge. Real listening is really engaging in a conversation with that other person on eye level. Not below, not above. That's the gold middle way. The eye level way is the path of responsibility, and that's what people don't want to take. They would rather worship that one person because they don't want the responsibility of standing on their own 2 feet. But that's the path. This is the truth, what I'm saying. If you do an exorcism on someone, you have wrapped religion deeper and deeper and deeper into that person. It doesn't matter what your religion is or what your belief system is. If you do an exorcism from whatever belief or religion, you wrap religion deeper into them, and anti-information and unempowerment and despair. And some people even hurt someone physically when they do it. It's all totally unethical. I see videos showing up on the right on YouTube or people are talking about exorcism or that. They want to actually seriously bring humanity back 300 years in time. It's all total unempowerment. You know, when someone says there's evil, you know, the word evil, that's to use that word even is not responsibility. I've never liked that word. I always had an instinct about it. Why? That word evil, to use the word evil is not right. There are things that go wrong, very wrong, yes. But it's not evil, it's not demons, you know. It's not like just to do things deliberately, this or that. Yeah, there are some people that want to hurt others, but there's a reason for it. They're unempowered. They think that's the only way they can get some power. They're crazy. They are not well. Okay, they suffer. They suffer. They feel like they feel walked on like a rock. People told me that in person. Someone said to me, I walk on them like a rock. I don't even know them. My videos walk on them like a rock. Wow. So where does that statement come from? From the ego, of course. The ego takes offense to these things. The ego taking offense, the defense mechanism. But it's not like that's our ego and that's we are. No, we are the ego. We are the ego. We need to take responsibility for it. We need to shift our understanding. We need to shift the perspective on how to look at it. Then we can say, yes, I have been egoic. Not because something rode me. You know, my mother used to say, this is embedded in the German language. I wanted to talk about this just the other day. I was thinking about this. How my mother always used to say, I don't know what drove into me. I don't know. They probably have that here too. That saying, what drove into me, you know, like in the film The Exorcist. Something from outside drove into me. I'm just a complete willingless puppet, I'm just a glove. And something else drove into me and operated my body. No, that's not how it works. Sorry. That's a very popular thing to think, say, use as language, sell to people as truth in form of this language, and so on. No, it's a misconception. Nothing drove into us. We're just unaware. We're unmindful. We are acting from our past, from our past trauma. When things are unresolved, when we haven't healed our trauma from the past, then that past takes over in a very unconscious way. So that people think something drove into them, but it didn't. It is their past. And there's another thing that I fell into in my life, to blame everything onto my past and say, I am just a victim of mistreatment, and it's all my parents' fault, or the teachers, or the bullies in the school. That's another trap to fall into, so that one doesn't have to take responsibility. So, no, it's, I suffer, and yes, it's true, we grow up in less good circumstances, most of us, but then to be stuck in the blaming of these circumstances is not going to bring us further. That's the truth. So we have to say, so yes, this happened, but I'm not going to dwell on it in terms of blame shifting. I ask myself, what can I do now in my life, right now, in this situation, to not just make the best out of it, but make something amazing out of it and help other people in turn as well. So if everyone did that, we can make the world into a paradise. All of us, each person. You have power. You're empowered. You are already you, and you are already great. Now make something great. Don't become self-glorifying. Don't fall into the other trap. Don't fall into this or that trap. Don't fall into the unempowerment trap. Don't fall into the ego trap either, because ego is never empowerment. It's never true empowerment. It's just another way of unempowerment, to think, to glorify oneself. No one is glorious. We're all students, all of us. No one is a god, no one is there are some god level souls who's very advanced. But even they are learning. What? I'm getting sick. Sorry. Sorry. Oh yeah. There's so many flus going around. I'm always worried about going shopping. Yeah. So many flus. And again, that's happening because of greed. The flus happen because of greed, and greed is also really a form of unempowerment in a very in a less obvious way, but it is, and it's a big chain reaction. It's the physicians that prescribe pharmaceutical drugs, usually antibiotics, which don't work for viruses, flu virus, or the serious illnesses from viruses. And then they're full of these flu shots that are real bad for the liver, real bad for the immune system actually, that are real bad for the whole body, the kidneys, everything. And they're toxic, they contain mercury, very dangerous. Pharmaceutical medications, very dangerous for people's health. But the doctors make money on it. They get kickbacks from the from the drug companies for prescribing these things. So that's why they're very prescribing happy. And this makes people sick, and animals too. And something really terrible happening is it causes this overprescription. Many of you know this already. Overprescription of, but a lot of people don't know. And they don't tell you that in the movies, of course, because they're telling you the opposite in movies. They keep you uninformed, anti-informed. What's happening is the over-consumption and over-prescribing and over-use also in the agricultural industry with cattle. Overuse of antibiotics is basically creating a completely artificial environment now, totally unnatural. And in this soup of toxicity, there are new strands of viruses evolving, because things always evolve anyway, but it evolves in this environment. And the weaker ones, they get killed off because so many of those get killed off. And the stronger viruses, it's a parasitic entity. The stronger viruses, they become more and more and more vicious and deadly. And those are the ones then that survive. So it's basically a breeding